Well, homophobia, transphobia, sexism. Well, these were all accusations that were made against me that had nothing to back them up. So if all of those don't work, why don't we just move on to calling me a racist? Yes, apparently that's the new accusation now. The guy who's a third worldist, who sides with the third world, primarily people of color, over the first world, is apparently racist. So who's it coming from this time? Well, apparently it's coming from the communism group on Facebook, with resident tank commander Daniel Sullivan and Charlie Mann. But primarily it's actually coming from Jannah Leah. So being as that I have fans on the Facebook group, they decided to ask, what was their basis for concluding, particularly Jannah Leah, and that's what I'm going to be doing from now on, is calling people out by name. What's their basis for saying that I'm a racist? Well, their answer was primarily to just ban them from the Facebook group. So we already know that they're lying cowards. But Jannah Leah did bother giving one prime example. The video I made on Kshama Sawat, where I said I didn't support her and found that her motives were entirely suspicious. So what exactly is actually being said? Well, according to Jannah Leah, I basically told Kshama Sawat to go back to India. Now, the reason that she says this stupidity is because I said, look at Kshama Sawat. She says, I want to help poor people. So she comes from India. Her thesis was basically on peasant society, and it was an elderly population in peasant society. She clearly understands India, well, being that she's from there. She clearly has a very in-depth understanding of it, given that that's what her thesis was on. Yet, she chooses to stay in the first world and struggle where it's easy, running for city councilor. And I called out first world Marxists for jumping up and down like this is some kind of accomplishment. It's not. You're basically cheering on social democracy. Oh, look, we're going to achieve all of this now. She's just a city councilor on a council that's all bourgeois. In other words, she's not going to accomplish anything. Now, my main thing was, if she really cared about the poor people, if she wanted to help the poor, she said, then she would help them in her own country where she came from. She has a really good understanding of what that's about. You know, the third world is actually poorer than the first world. I don't think a lot of people, these first world Marxists, really understand that. And when you have a specific knowledge that's really deep for that and is geared towards that, and then you say you want to help the really poor, but then turn around and help the most privileged people in the world, first world white people, particularly union workers, you can kind of see how that doesn't really match up. And apparently that means, according to Jannah Leah, that I told Kshama Sawat to go back to India. Now, you see, the thing is, Sawat is a Trotskyist, and I made that point. That's what a Trotskyist does. Goes somewhere where the struggle isn't hard, and usually going somewhere where the struggle is the easiest. Basically, the first world, where you can just run on city council, and you don't get shot at like you would in the third world. This is completely consistent with what we know of Trotskyists. This is not racism. This is pointing out the obvious first worldist privileged nature of Kshama Sawat, the group she comes from, which, by the way, is a social democratic party. It's not even actually a Marxist, not even a party. It's a group. They're social democrats. They're not even Marxists. Okay, so someone who's a Trotskyist, who comes from a social democrat group, should be protected and celebrated. But if anybody points out the inconsistencies in what they're saying and the inconsistencies with the positions they hold, then that person therefore must be racist. Apparently, that's the argument Jannah Leah is putting forward. Now, me, on the other hand, I've been calling out Nicolas Maduro for his goddamn social democratic tendencies when he's a member of the actual Communist Party. You see, I'm against social democracy. I'm for revolution, communism, which apparently Jannah Leah isn't, and any Marxist who supports Kshama Sawat apparently is also against. Now, if this actually wasn't stupid enough, here's something that she's claimed about me that's even stupider. She frequently runs around calling me a careerist. Now, for clarity, this is what a careerist is. A person whose main concern is for professional advancement. one willing to achieve this by any means. So exactly how am I a careerist? I don't have a career. I'm not in a party. I can't advance in something that I'm not in. And in fact, I've emphatically stated that I will not join a party. So it's very clear here that Jannah Leah literally doesn't know what a careerist is. She's accusing me of something completely based on nothing but her own blithering ignorance. Well, let's take this even a little bit further. Only concern is for professional advancement. Now, I would like to point out that maybe this could be interpreted in another way, like just trying to get views. I would, however, like to point out that I am a third worldist, which actually goes against the grain of mainstream Marxist thought. So apparently, even in this way, it still doesn't make any sense, because I do go against what is the popular current in Marxist philosophy. But apparently, according to her, I just do whatever it is that it takes to advance in the career that I don't have. So literally what we have here is Jannah Leah clearly lying and demonstrating she has no idea what she's talking about. Oh, and just as a side note, she also happens to be one of those anti-Maoists as well, who says Maoism is only concerned with the peasantry, which is not true. In fact, I could point to the Black Panthers in the United States. They weren't peasants. It's about adapting the Marxist philosophy where the worker may not be the most exploited person. Peasants are worse off than workers. In the United States, black workers are worse off than white workers. This is called the reality of race in America. But why would she do this, you ask? Now, aside from being an anti-Maoist, there's also this. Not too long ago, I called out Jannah Leah for plagiarizing my work. Over the course of about 2 years, and continuing even to this day, I put together a list of people killed by capitalism, which I have totaled at about 1.6 billion. This list appeared on her Facebook page without credit to me, without even acknowledging that she didn't make it. Now, I made a post exposing this, calling her out on stealing my work. I hope this fact just puts a little bit of perspective into what she's saying. This is one of the reasons why I primarily do not like Marxism in the first world. Now, aside from the fact that I do consider myself to be a third worldist, it's because of people like this. Basically, Facebook revolutionaries who, instead of trying to advance ideas or trying to do something productive whatsoever, just go around and make shit up about people, call people names. And if you've ever seen the communism group on Facebook, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People who spent several days arguing over the pronunciation of petit bourgeoisie, petit or petty. Which one is it? Apparently that was the most pressing concern that they had to talk about. I'm actually getting really sick and tired of these people just making things up about me because they don't like me or they don't like Maoism. If you don't like me, don't watch me. There's plenty of YouTubers I don't like. And guess what? I just don't watch them. Jannah Leah, I've had enough of you going around to Facebook pages making things up about me. For Christ's sakes, could you please find something productive to do other than slandering people? Thank you for watching. Please comment and rate the video. If you liked it, hit subscribe or check out some of these other great videos. If you wish, share it on social media. And while you're at it, why don't you follow me on Twitter? And if you got time, go on over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.